Thank you for joining on to the Jock Brothers tonight. Bismarck man, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. And thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us tonight. Jock Brothers, we're live 7 p.m. Tonight we'll be discussing, and that's going to be a very enlightening discussion. We're coming straight out of the knowledge and the wisdom of God from the book on how to eat to live. We'll be discussing things like the discipline of eating, training yourself, caring for your body, the healthy mind. It's a battle that we're all dealing with, and we're looking forward to be a reminder tonight to help guide all of us on a journey for peace and health, mind and body. But let me get started first by introducing my co-host. Brother, he's a father, he's a mentor, he's a great friend and inspiration, not only to myself, but everyone who comes in his circumference. Let me introduce to you my brother, my friend, Brother Kawi Muhammad.
Oh, praise be to Allah. That introduction was for me, brother. Oh,
yes, sir.
Thank you, soldier. Praise be to Allah. Once again, everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Jock Brothers Presents Let Us Make Man. I think we're going to have a very explosive show tonight. I think this is a timely show, and I think we have some real fireballs, I guess, for the first time ever on camera, and I hope this is not the last time. So thank you again for tuning in to the Jock Brothers Presents Let Us Make Man. For those that support the Jock Brothers and has been supporting the Jock Brothers from the very beginning, we thank you. Words absolutely cannot express how much we appreciate the support you give the Jock Brothers. Also, for those that have supported us on financially, like we always do in the South, we like to thank you in threes. So thank you, and thank you. All right. Now, for those that really think this show right here is going to be explosive, well, we want you to, of course, share this show, because so many of our people are suffering through the mouth, through their diets, and we wanted to give you a reason why we should be a little bit more aware or stronger in our pursuit for health than what we already are. So, again, share this show. Please, for those that come on, hit subscribe and hit the bell. Now, for those that like to support the Jock Brothers platform, our Cash App information is JAKQ Bros. JAKQ Bros. $ JAKQ Bros. I'm looking for the Cash App, so it'll be scrolling in just a second. But yeah, so please continue. I don't care if it's $1, $2, $5,000. Just support the Jock Brothers. Again, money would be well spent. Thank you so much for that. Now, Jock Brothers have initiatives. We have initiatives, and we try to be a very progressive podcast. One of our initiatives is that we would like to put the Final Call newspaper behind bars for our brothers and sisters that just can't walk up to the mosque and get one. And so we're asking you to help in those endeavors. So I know to put the Final Call behind bars is $18. That'll cover 90 days of the Final Call newspaper. And for $30, it'll cover a half year. Most of our donations have been right at that figure right there, right at $18 and the $30. Continue to support us in that endeavor. And trust me, if that paper hit, when it hits the bars, when it goes to jail, when we give it to our brothers and sisters that's incarcerated, I am told that it should touch the hands of 25 of our brothers and sisters that's incarcerated. But just in case you really want to help an individual or sponsor a brother or sister that's incarcerated, it's $60 for the entire year. A 1 year subscription of the Final Call for the whole year. So please help in those endeavors. And we got other initiatives coming up. Like, we are all youth mentors, and we are really working hard to bring brotherhood and unity amongst our youth. So that's coming very soon. I hope that you understand that the Jock Brothers, we try to be more than just a podcast, but we actually try to really make a positive impact in our communities and our surroundings. So thank you again. Again, the Cash App information at the bottom of the screen, $Jock Bros. Thank you, Brother Ahmed.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Brother Cowie. Yes, so tonight we're going to be, our discussion is coming from the book, How to Eat to Live. We picked this topic because at this time we're venturing into these so-called holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, where we consume tons of food, an abundant amount of food and alcohol and things of that nature. We wanted to bring this topic in to help guide us in the journey, so we don't have to wait till the end of the year for this New Year's resolution. I want to lose weight. I want to get healthy. Let's start now.
That's
Let's
right.
get the information now. So we've brought on two doctors who have done intense study from the information in this book that you can purchase as well, but they have done intense study in this book. So we brought them on to help us in this discussion. Please bring on, with a strong Jock Brothers round of applause, our sister Christina Park, and our brother Akili, Dr. Akili Muhammad, excuse me.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Sister Christina, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire with a double major in biochemistry and molecular biology. And I did undergraduate research in organic chemistry. I was in there. My lab was like the size of a closet. I think it was a renovated blue room closet, actually. And but I had my by any means necessary X hat on and my NWA shirt. So that was my by any means necessary. Then I went to graduate school and graduated with a PhD. It took me 8 years from University of Michigan in cellular and molecular biology. And that was done in the field of cytokine signaling, which is the signals that the molecules your immune system uses to signal. But I also have always been really interested in food chemistry. As I got out of school and started to embark on having a family, I was really interested in things like vitamin D. I was really interested in what turns on and off genes, and, let food be your medicine. We know that food does do that. And so I really started to do a deeper dive into what was going on with our food and the biochemistry of food. And it's been about a 20-year journey. And interestingly enough, I really scoured the scientific literature and then different organizations for what was the truth? What was the truth about what we should be eating and what we shouldn't be eating? The Bible, you name it. And so when I got my hands on Eat to Live, I could verify the science behind about 85% of it just immediately. Not saying the other 15% wasn't correct, just that I didn't, know we haven't tested the science behind it yet. So, what I was just talking with Brother Ahmed about, that, or maybe it was Brother Kaiwi, that what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad says simply, I could go on for 30 or 40 pages about, but there it is.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And this is an epic meeting because two doctors in our community, this is their first time meeting. So we get ready. This is explosive, the sharing and powerful minds. But excuse me, but Dr. Akili, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Yes, sir. Well, I am a traditionally trained physician. Went to Prairie View A&M for undergrad and Meharry Medical College for medical school. And my experience was, of course, traditional focus was what I grew up thinking. I didn't know there was any other way. But after getting into my own practice and practicing for about 7 years, I was completely disenfranchised with have a person walk in your office, give them a prescription, send them to a specialist, send them for this procedure, whatever the case may be. That got tiring. And after 7 years of practice, I believe I was led to read How to Eat to Live. And I had a different experience than Dr. Parks. I actually was reading the book and I was like, how in the hell is that true? That ain't what I learned. That's not what I was taught. Why haven't I ever heard any of my mentors mention fasting is the cure for 90% of our ills? So I was taken aback by the book, but I had so much reverence for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad because of my father's reverence for him. But I, of course, when I closed the book and went back to the office the next day, I was like, there's no way this man knows more than me. I went to school all these years. He didn't finish the 4th grade. So I went to prove him wrong. And what happened in the process of trying to prove him wrong, I came to the same conclusion that Dr. Parks just mentioned. I could look at the book and say, man, all of this stuff is true. I'm watching it walk itself into a reality. And then the few things that I don't and haven't seen come true, if you prove to me 85%, I'm gonna roll with you for the rest of the 15. So the last 20 years of my career, it's been using How to Eat to Live as the foundation to prove that the body was made by Allah so smart, it has the ability to heal itself. And so I would never arrogate myself to being a healer, but I, inshallah, am a conduit of information that allow people to be empowered to heal themselves.
Praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. Thank you. And I'm your brother Ahmed. I have an associate's degree in computer networking, but I'm just very curious and I ask a lot of questions.
Yes, sir.
But let's start this very important and topic with a question. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad made a statement in his book. He said that food can either help us live or help us die. Could both of you just start with that comment that he made? How do you feel about that comment?
Dr. Parks, you want to go first?
He puns. I'm like, oh boy, that's kind of a vague question. But yeah, I mean, it's true. But in some ways, the things that we're putting in our mouth aren't actually food. And so we can put in our mouths food and just continue to feed ourselves all day and all night. The body doesn't need all that food, as we've very clearly shown. And we know from intermittent fasting studies that when, one of the reasons people say, well, don't stop eating because then your metabolism will slow down. Well, guess what? When your metabolism slows down, your production of free radicals, these little electrons that damage all your tissues, those slow down. And so when you slow down your metabolism, you actually extend your lifespan. And so if you don't, keep eating and you allow your body to sort of stabilize, you'll stabilize a metabolism that is slow enough that you are not damaging your tissues, but is fast enough, that is making enough energy for you to, have a normal life. And so I would say, yes, I would say it's, sometimes it's not the food that's killing us. It's our unrestricted appetites, whether that's for social media, whether that's for food, whether that's for sex, whether that's for drugs. When you cannot restrict your appetite. And if you're not restricting your appetite, I think it's a sign of a deeper issue, which is that you are not getting your comfort and your sustenance from God. You are searching for a quick fix in the world. And, that is never really going to truly satisfy.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So I would say, my experience with learning and studying the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his words, it's proof that Allah's word, God's information is infinite, and our ability to understand it is very limited. So the way I look at that statement, my brother, is that when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote these articles that are compiled to make this book, the word food didn't have as many variations as it has today. And I would agree with my sister that the majority of what people are bringing in their homes in a bag, putting in the refrigerator, in the cupboard, or putting on the stove, I would argue that it's not food. The majority of what's in the grocery store, these places that you call fast food places, restaurants, the majority of what we are putting into our bodies isn't food. So that is the reality. as I was having a discussion with my wife in the last couple of days, that in 2023, it takes a lot of work to bring food in your home.
Hmm.
We assume that we're getting food when we go to these grocery stores, or because we're picking up this or picking up that. But many times there isn't any, there may be some nutrients in it, but they're not enough quality nutrients in most of the things that people are eating. And that's why you're seeing a constant deterioration. You see a person, you see them not too long after that, they look like they have more gray hairs. They look like they've aged and got more wrinkles. People are aging quickly. And then when you add on the anxious and the depression and the difficulty of living in today's modern time, people are looking like they're malnutritious very quickly in this country. So if we compare that ideology to when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was writing these articles, there were majority of Black people in this country were growing their own food.
Right.
So the definition and the words of God, they travel with time. So back then, my grandmother was in her 30s, and my grandmother had never eaten out of a grocery store until she was 49, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad first started writing these articles.
Wow.
So his statement to her was more about having time in between these foods that you're eating. Even though some of them weren't good, they're still better than the majority of what we can find today. But in that dispensation, people needed to learn that once you put food in your body, it takes time for it to get to work. It takes time for it to do what it's made to do, which is to sustain you, but also heal you. And then when we look at today's time, that same statement represents to people, number one, if you're not eating the best of foods, which most people don't even know how to find, you still have to have time in between, because the processes that are going on in the body didn't change from 1930 to 2023. Allah's infinite wisdom has the body more intelligent than we'll ever be. But the difference in how the food quality is, where Black people are getting their food from then to now, is completely different. We have become totally dependent on other people. There are not very many Black people, period, that are growing their own food. So we don't know what we're eating. We don't know what the process was to make that apple look like an apple, that banana to look like a banana, or that grapefruit, or that broccoli, or that cauliflower. So what we're eating today, we need to put a lot more time in. People are getting to a point where they're using a little bit of time for their food and much time running after money, and that's going to have a horrible ending.
So with this science of good foods, would it be a good idea because the foods that are being made today or grown with pesticides, and some of them are being grown in labs, would it be smart for someone to narrow down their diet to eat only certain basic things?
I'll hop in there, and I'd say, well, I think that was the message of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Unfortunately, some of those basic things, milk and bread, have been, very, very adulterated. And so when you are narrowing them down, you need to make sure that you're getting the highest quality, ideally unpasteurized goat's milk, very, very healthy. And also bread. I know one of my initiatives, one of my heart's calling is to reinitiate sourdough. And I have to tell you, I started a sourdough for my student minister's wife, and it was a dismal failure. And I thought, I'm doing too much. I can't get this going. But she is just an amazing woman, and she restarted her own sourdough, did all the research. Now she's making the most fabulous sourdough ever, and she's selling it at our mosque. I'm sure if she's able to acquire the resources, she'll soon be going national. And that's the kind of thing I'd like to see, where, every Sunday we can go get a loaf of sourdough bread. And it, the semantics of exactly what you call it, but in Eat to Live, it said our bread should be soured. And there is an intense amount of science. It liberates many nutrients. It breaks down that gluten that is so dangerous for our gut. It extends the shelf life of it, and it actually produces nutrients that would not otherwise be there. So the fermentation of our bread and the soaking of our beans, all of our legumes and all of our seeds is absolutely critical to allow the destruction of anti-nutrients that are in any seed. Seeds are like, they have all these anti-nutrients in them that protect them from breaking down before they germinate to make a plant. But those are dangerous for your body, and they bind minerals so that your body can't absorb them. So you always need to soak all of your grains, all of your legumes, your beans, and you need to ferment your breads. And so, a basic sourdough bread, can really sustain a lot of, people for a long time. You don't need a whole bunch of different foods,
Yes,
with
ma'am.
navy bean soup and bread.
So the science of good foods and also preparing your foods as well. Preparation of it. Yes, sir. But Dr. Keely?
Yeah, well, I was having a conversation the other day with some believers, and the conversation was about what we can grow down here in Georgia. And what we can grow here in Georgia might not necessarily be the same as what you can grow in Missouri or Massachusetts or California. And so, yes, we are going to have to get our minds wrapped around what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has presented to us. And he says in multiple times in the book that a simple diet is best. We shouldn't be out here trying to eat all these specialty foods and trying to eat everything that's available. Get yourself on a certain high quality foods, which means that we should be making a list out of the book that he wrote, because that's the best grocery list you could have, is taking down the foods that he listed.
That's
as
right.
I continue to study and as I continue to learn, the foods that he mentioned in the book are some of the highest nutritional value foods there are on the planet Earth. And while I'm on that subject, I will mention this because I think we have to disabuse ourselves of many of these. They could probably be myths for some people, but they're lies for others because it's based in a lie. When you think that the food that you can grow in your part of the country that you live is not adequate, and you have to go and find superfoods from other parts of the world, that's making your God a producer of confusion, and he's not that. The food that you can grow in your backyard, the food that you can grow with the group of people that come together in your area of the world, your area of the country, and that food that you produce, you have to completely have the confidence that you can rely on that, because a tomato that's grown in Macon, Georgia is going to be just as nutritious if the soil's being done correctly as you eating broccoli in Massachusetts, or you eating a peach in California, or a person in another part of the world eating what's endemic in their area. We have to get away from this perspective that what we do in this so-called modern day of food industry, or the modern food import and exports, we have to disabuse ourselves that that's a healthy reality. If you go and travel someplace else, you could eat different types of foods and have good nutrition, but food being shipped and food traveling to other parts of the world where it's not being grown is usually some process that's going to decrease the nutritional value. And on that note of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and not eating a whole lot of foods, he said the best foods were wheat bread, milk, and navy beans. So, and in another part of How to Eat to Live in book 1, he says wheat bread and whole milk, you could live indefinitely. He didn't say that about any other food. And so when we start to getting away, as I spoke earlier about what the current food reality in this country and all over the world, as we decrease the number of foods that we're eating, and as we get our food more local and more real that we're producing, we will see our health statistics in this country as Black people significantly improve, Black, red, and brown. And I honestly can't comment on what Dr. Park said about sourdough. Somebody asked me about sourdough not too long ago. I don't recall it being mentioned in How to Eat to Live, but I do know that we have to consider sourdough, but we also have to take in consideration that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad does not suggest us eating fermented food. So that is something that we as scientists are going to have a conversation so that we can make sure we give the public the type of information that they could use very confidently.
Okay, so I have a question. So I'm so I was been at this particular company now for like 6 weeks. I actually sit very close to a guy that injects himself every morning with insulin. Around me, I see a lot of people taking pills, all kind of pills, for different reasons. The diabetic, high blood pressure pills. I mean, it's actually like a little pharmacist in that store. I see people selling pills to somebody that forgot their pill. And so when I really investigate why are people taking pills, and they think they are like, wow, man, you're a very inquisitive guy. You're not afraid to ask a question type of guy. Most of them have diabetes. Yet the conversation around the office is, I can't wait to get to my family this weekend to eat. And of course, the same old menu that is going to be served at Thanksgiving, which you got the dressings, you got the collards. They got this thing now called kale salad or kale kind of type of collard style. I mean, the same old stuff that's enhancing these diseases. Can you please? I want to start with Dr. Achille on this one. Can you please elaborate on what I'm saying in terms of, I guess the epidemic with the diabetes and I guess some interventions of what you have read that can help curb that.
Yes, sir. Well, we can go right back to the words of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he talks to us and tells us about the fact that the only reason we celebrate the holidays that we celebrate is because we had a chance to get off of being a slave, working from dusk to dawn. If we think about the reality in 2023, it's no different. The reason why people celebrate what I call Thanksgiving, is because they got time off of work. But if we really researched what the foundation of this so-called holiday is, we wouldn't even be interested in it. So the first problem is the thought process behind these things that we do. And then the second aspect of this, again, we go right back to what Dr. Parks and I have been saying from the beginning. What is food? And so the foundation of a slave diet is the scraps from what the slave master ate. And we found a way to make these things edible. That is the reality of what we're still doing 160 plus years after we so-called were freed. So what's about to happen over the next few days is the consumption of food that pretty much serves no nutritional purpose, and the way we cook them doesn't add any value to them. And so when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, as I said in the last section, if you don't make your grocery shopping list from the man who met with God and the man who has revolutionized health and the health actions of people in this country, they will not give him credit and they won't use the terminology. But what they are doing is studying what this man presented and has been presenting since the early 1930s. And so we're looking at a people, Black people, brown people, red people, who have, for the most part, rejected sound guidance, divine guidance. And so we're still making the same mistakes. We're still living and practicing the same actions that have gotten us no benefits, right? Now, Here's something that I have to refresh my study on, but a few years ago, I did some research on the number of heart attacks, the number of strokes, the number of diabetic comas that occur in the Black community. And the majority of them occur from now until New Year's.
From now,
So
okay.
it should be obvious to us that the way we eat and the way we do things during these so-called holidays is absolutely killing us. Not on a slow reality like producing diabetes and high blood pressure and other things like that. That's happening, but I mean literally killing people. The majority of heart attacks occur at this time of year. The majority of strokes and the majority of diabetic comas, like I just finished saying. And then we would have to add a lot of these other medical problems that sometimes are not chronic ones, that have these serious events that occur after you having them for a long period of time. But we literally are showing, the statistics show us that we're living a death style. We turn it up at the end of the year with these Thanksgiving and a celebration of a white Jesus and then a new year that ain't nothing really going to change in your life. And so we really have to look at these things, assess ourselves. What are we doing individually? What are we practicing around our family members? What are we suggesting and promoting to our family members that could potentially take us in a different direction, improve our health, and then start making that a habit all year long, instead of the type of habits that we're passing down to the next generation that is nothing but death and destruction.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad stated in this book that this country creates food for taste. I was watching a documentary on some of the companies like Hydrox and Oreo and how they make their foods, but they add all these ingredients just for taste. So the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, this country makes its food based on taste. But how do you feel about that?
I guess Dr. Parks, you want to take that one, Dr. Parks?
Is it my turn? I wanted to talk about sugar.
Well, do so.
I will address that though, and that is that they're not foods. So they take a industrial byproduct of a cottonseed oil that they have so much of that they don't know what to do, and they have to bleach it a gazillion times so that it doesn't reek to the high heavens. And then they put some yellow coloring in it, or maybe they just leave it white, and that's what our Crisco was, right? And it's hydrogenated. So we've made trans fats that the body has no enzymes. It doesn't know how to break it down. Many of the studies that showed that saturated fats cause heart disease, the regular fats like tallow were mixed in with the hydrogenated fats, which are extremely, extremely toxic. And then they use all of these synthetic flavorings that smell and taste very good. And then I love Jelly Bellies. They're probably from Satan for sure, but they taste really good, And so they've got all these different flavorings, synthetic flavorings that mimic the real thing. And yeah, we just eat it hook, line, and sinker. So, but is it real? Is it actually real food? And so when you wean your body off of that, and also when we grow our own food, having had a large garden, it's very hard to go to the store and pick up some of the produce there, because what I would get out of my garden, the quality and taste just so far exceeded. So we need to start, growing our own food when we can, and we need to prioritize, as a society, real food, and actually taking some time around food. One of the nice things about only eating one meal a day is hopefully you can take a little bit more time in the preparation and in eating and talking with one another and those sorts of things. So I think as a society, prioritizing real meals is really important. I do want to touch on sugar. I could talk about that.
I'm sorry, because you that was the question call we had. So yeah, you could go ahead. That was
Yeah, I know you cut me off, brother. That's fine, brother.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So so much of our heart disease and diabetes is sugar related. First of all, type 1 diabetes is actually an autoimmune condition that has now been linked to what were the childhood vaccines. So it's not innocuous. It's a man-created issue as well. Type 2 diabetes, adult onset diabetes, usually is because, like, for instance, I'll use myself as an example. When I eat something sugary like a donut, I actually produce too much insulin. What does insulin do? It takes the sugar out of your blood into your cells. I produce so much insulin that I no longer have any blood sugar and I feel like I'm going to pass out. Well, what am I going to do? Cook a pot roast? No, I'm going to reach for another donut. And it just happens again and again and again. When you eat too many carbs, what you do is your insulin is constantly driving that sugar into your cells. And eventually the cells are like, no more sugar, no more sugar. And they take away the receptors and you become insulin resistant. They're like, we'll not take any more sugar. We're not making any more fat. You are fat enough, right? That's supposed to be a sign for you to eat less sugar, but most of us don't. We continue to eat sugar. That sugar remains in our bloodstream. And what it does, it's extremely, extremely inflammatory. It's inflammatory for our cells. It's inflammatory for the cells lining our blood vessels. It's inflammatory for our heart. And it is that inflammation that we now know is linked to heart disease. And it actually, cholesterol is kind of a false marker. There are only a few groups of people that have had a heart attack where high cholesterol can be a problem, but the cholesterol is high because of the sugar, because you are inflamed. The body makes cholesterol to try to make different hormones and to try to mop up the damage. And so when you drop your sugar, then you're going to drop your inflammation. Your body is not as likely to make cholesterol. There are some genetic predispositions, but even so, it is generally the inflammation that is the problem. And when you talk about people dying, they just get to the point where their inflammation is out of control. Now, part of that can be because of gluttony. They're eating so much that their body does not have time to detoxify, which then, of course, leads to increased inflammation. And some of it is, of course, people love to snack on sugary treats all during the holidays, which, and again, increases their inflammation. And so, and of course, there is just the inflammation caused by the stress of being around possibly family members where there might be some emotional turmoil or things like that. But I think that one of the things that eating one meal a day really does is it lowers your blood sugar consistently, and your liver stores about 2 days worth of food for your body, of sugar in the form of glycogen. So once you've eaten, you really don't need to eat for a day or two at the very least. And it's much healthier for your body than to, when it needs that sugar, go and convert it slowly from the glycogen in your liver instead of constantly having to feed yourself and having that insulin response again and again and again during the day, which depletes your pancreas and gives you type 2 diabetes.
Yes. The training yourself though to eat that one meal a day. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in the book that we shouldn't eat until we're very hungry, and then we shouldn't eat again until we're very hungry. And, I like the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad adapted to drinking coffee. The warm coffee during the day helps my cravings if I get a little hungry. But he also said not to fill it with creams and sugars. But what other ways do you feel that we can strengthen ourselves to put ourselves in a routine to eat every other day or every 2 days?
Is that for me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I would say that if all of us that are on this show tonight decided that we were going to run a marathon at the end of January, there's probably somebody that we know or somebody that could give us some advice on how to do that, right? You don't start running, if it's a 30-kilometer race, you don't start trying to run 30 kilometers tomorrow. You work yourself towards it, right? And that's the same thing that Elijah Muhammad told us. But I think when we look at again, we have to go back to the tricks that are being played. I know I did research at least 15, 20 years ago where they could put certain chemicals on pieces of paper and let people eat that. And they literally thought they were eating whatever the taste chemical that they put on there. So that's how scientific these food scientists are that produce these things that are filling the grocery stores and filling places that we buy things. And so the initial factor is to train yourself and discipline yourself. But the second factor is to put whole foods in your body, whole natural foods, which will support the natural systems in the body. That makes it easier. These foods that we're discussing, well, I should say these things that we're discussing that really aren't food,
Right.
you can't fathom what these chemicals are doing to you because they're in a scientific lab doing experiments on animals and then humans, and we don't know anything about these science experiments that they're doing. So we go somewhere and we think, I typically don't eat here, but today I'm going to stop and get Chick-fil-A. Has anybody ever gone and looked at the ingredient list for a chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A? Right. And the brother Nuri's post is on social media all over the place right now, talking about how many ingredients he saw when he did the research. I've been doing that research for many, many years as well. And most people can't pronounce many of the things that are in these so-called foods that they're eating. So you don't even know what these chemicals are doing to you. You don't know how these chemicals are affecting your taste buds. You also don't know how they're affecting your frame of mind, because food has a lot to do with our mood, our mental health. Don't think I know what I'm talking about? Watch people that eat a lot of food in the next couple of days, right? They literally look like they have gone into a coma. And I'm not talking about people that are sick. I'm talking about regular, everyday people that are so-called healthy. They eat turkey. Turkey has a so-called, process that can make you get more sleepy because of the tryptophan and things of that nature. But there are other foods that do that too. There are foods that have high sugar values, like my sister was just talking about, and it'll take you up and then drop you down. So at the end of the day, we don't understand that anytime you go and you're going to get something to put into your mouth, what you are purchasing are scientific experiments. And the point of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is to do what? To put discipline back into us so that we can get to a place where we can be back in control and have the good health that we can have if we do the right things. So again, we have to always go back to what he says, the best of foods. If you don't know what the best of foods are, you should get the book and read the book and then start doing your research on how to find the best foods. And then you will start to pull yourself away from having such a difficulty factor. When you're eating very good foods, you feel better when you fast. When you eat things that are not food, you start getting reactions when you don't have it in you. So you might get a headache because you're missing MSG, or you might get this reaction because you don't have as much sugar. Or you might get a different reaction because there's not artificial sweetener. So that's the reality, is that we really have a very powerful scientific book, and we're not applying it because we're not going into it and looking at it as a scientific body. We're looking at it as, he told us some things to eat and he told us some things to stay away from. That's the very bare minimum of this book. This book needs to be studied in depth. And that's why you can have a scientist like Dr. Parks and a scientist like myself in two different fields see so much into the book. We have to get more in depth in understanding what we would be pulling ourselves away from just by following some of the very simple words that he uses to give us directions. I pray I answered the question. Did I?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Let me cut in, man. Dr. Parks has another obligation.
Yeah, so if I can, I'll say a couple words and then I have to leave for another obligation. I'd like to do a shout out to Sister Yariva, who is my processing sisters and one of the most amazing human beings on the planet. So assalamu alaikum, Sister Yariva. And I would address that. Actually, that's sort of my life work, is to sort of help people to scaffold them, because the truth is we're here to have life and have it more abundantly. Part of it is mental. We have believed the lie that we are making a sacrifice, when in fact it isn't really a sacrifice, because most of us are having trouble either because we're toxic and we're detoxing, or we're craving things like, as he said, MSG that our brain is now addicted to. But really, it's usually nutritional deficiencies. And so as we eat things that activate, your body has its own actual natural antioxidant detox pathway that when you activate, you are going to feel a sense of well-being again. And so there are many herbs that will activate that, such as turmeric or oregano, basil, these sorts of things. But also in the food that we eat, if it is nutrient rich and we replace those minerals, you are not going to have the cravings that you had. Many of us also suffer from mitochondrial dysfunction. The mitochondria make all of your energy. So this is not like a quick conversation, but as we learn to eat the foods and utilize the herbs that help to restore those back to normal, for the first time in my life, I feel better now at 53 than I ever felt, especially in my early 20s. I have more energy. I have more well-being, more sense of peace. My body is just much healthier. And so we were not meant to crave. It's a lie that, oh my gosh, if you're thinking that I have to do this, but it's really gonna bite, that's not, to use like a food analogy. That's not true. When you support your body, in the end, it should be relatively effortless. I mean, there are going to be days, obviously, but and that's where it is going to have to warrant a longer conversation than I have to talk about here tonight. But the first thing to do is to believe that this is meant to give you more abundant life, more abundant health, a sense of well-being, all the things that you've wanted, not some sacrifice that you're making.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So thank you for having me on, and I'm sure we'll do this again. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
For coming on.
So Dr. Keeler, the consensus I keep hearing, we are not getting real food. We're grocery store. I don't know what that is. That's not real food. It sounds like we need to have a show on what's real food. When you're saying these things, like I know you're saying the food that we can grow. For those that don't have that green thumb or don't have a garden to go to, where exactly? And I'm just, this more personal. Where are you going to get, quote unquote, the real food that can help us nutritionally?
Excellent question. And let me disabuse all of us with that statement that you don't have a green thumb. You do have a green thumb, bro. It's just you gotta get the information like anything else we really don't know, right? We are beings that were made on a planet that everything I shouldn't say everything, but almost everything in existence comes from a plant, right? So we're tied to that reality. We all have a green thumb. We just haven't gone out there and put our hands in the dirt enough to realize it, or we just need to get a little more information. But I have, I would say, been growing food since I was a little boy. So there's some things that I'm very comfortable growing. And I think all of us should start with easy things like tomatoes. They're very easy to grow, right? Bell peppers, very easy to grow. All you have to do is most of the time just watch the leaves. The leaves start to dip, and that's when you know you have to wet it, and then they'll come back alive. But to specifically answer your question, my brother, the best and greatest food are the ones that we're growing in our own house, our own backyard, our own, wherever we have in our house, even a windowsill, right? The second best place, I think, would be food co-ops. And many times we're not using the food co-ops that are in our cities. There are people that are growing food, and anybody that grows food knows the abundance of what you get. You and your family can't eat usually what you're growing yourself. And so there are food co-ops in most of our cities. We just have to go on the internet and look at what the food co-ops are in your city or in the area where you live. and start going out there and then asking people questions. You don't go out there and trust them 100%. Ask them questions too. Hey, do you use pesticides? Do you use herbicides? Do you use chemical fertilizers? Do you use GMO seeds? And when you start getting some of the answers that make you think that this person may have food that's a little higher on the best of foods list, then you can deal with them. The third would be probably farmers markets. And you still have to ask questions, because many times in the farmers markets, they have GMO foods, they have the non-organic foods. And then we have to put that word organic in its proper perspective, right? The government of the United States of America cannot be trusted. So when you see organic on a food, you can't automatically assume this is the best food on the planet. But we all should be eating organic food, because you cannot afford to put pesticides, herbicides, chemical fertilizers, and GMOs in your body. They're tricks that a lot of these companies are playing, because for anybody to say something, for instance, like organic soy, such and such, well, soy is 99% GMO in this country. You see things, sometimes you see organic canola. Canola is a genetically modified food. There is no natural nature called the rapeseed that produces canola oil. You see what I mean? So these are the type of games that they're playing. But in general, if we just take some time and do some research and understand some things, when we walk into the last, what I would consider the last option, should be a grocery store. Grocery stores are full of tricks. So that would be my first suggestion on how we find the best of foods. It would be in that order. Try to raise something yourself. Look for co-ops in your area. Third would be a farmer's market, which you have to be on point, ask a lot of questions. And then the grocery store, it's the same thing. When you walk into a grocery store, the first thing that you should say to yourself is, I can't trust anything in here. Let me try to find what's best in this place and take this home and try to do something with it. So that would be specifically how I'd answer that question.
Wow.
Great idea.
Yeah, but we're gonna go on to if you give us about 5 minutes, Dr. Kelly, we're just gonna have a brief, quick commercial break where we're promoting some of our businesses.
Yes, sir.
Brother.
Yes, sir. So once again, thank you for tuning in to the Jock Brothers Presents Let Us Make Man. Wow, this has been a explosive show, very informative, and I hope you're feeling the same way. So if you are enjoying what you're hearing, if you're getting something out of what you're hearing, and you feel this need to be heard by more of your family and friends, please share this show, and please hit the subscribe button and the bell, which will also alert you to any time the Jock Brothers are presenting new shows. Again, Jock Brothers, we are brothers that are all businessmen. We all have, I myself, I'm in real estate. I'm a real estate agent. So if you have any questions about in a local area, Georgia, especially the Atlanta metropolitan area, you can give me a call. My phone number, 404-671-5681. Interest rates are steadily dropping. So please don't be afraid to get a house even with a high interest rate, because at some point they're going to drop, but you have ownership of that property. So don't be afraid of that. So give me a call. I can give you information on different areas that you may be interested in living in, or just having some land. Then you got my brother Ahmed. He's the author of the Jock Brothers. He has his book, Bilal and the Bully. It showcases our black youth. I grew up. I was with the Dr. Seuss books. It didn't identify with us. Bilal and the Bully identifies with us and our issues. You support our brother Ahmed. He has more books coming, and you can purchase his book. If you look at the screen right here, is www.bipublishing.com. You can also get his book on Amazon. So once again, www.bipublishing.com. Is there anything I need to add to that, Brother Ahmed?
No, sir.
Praise be to Allah. And of course, we have the great brother Jackie. He's not with us right now. He has popped in from time to time. He has his own company, Supreme Waste Removal. He has the cans. I think he has, quite a few cans in which you can purchase. I don't have his phone number, but
Dumpsters.
if you have some construction work going on, if you need to throw mass trash out, and you just need a can for a
Dumpsters.
week, a dumpster. Well, I call it dumpsters for a week or two. You call our brother Jackie, and his phone number. If he,
They could just use they could use that email.
they can use the Gmail right here, right
Yes,
here. So Jock Brothers Viewers at gmail.com. You can get in contact. As a matter of fact, with any one of us through this Gmail. But if you have a specific need for dumpsters, you can call. You can reach Brother Jackie with this Gmail right here. Jockbrothersviewers at gmail.com. Again, please don't forget our prison initiative. You can send your donations right here at $ Jock Bros through Cash App. I think I covered everything. Thank you, Brother Ahmed.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, Dr. Akili. The Most High Elijah Muhammad says that by nature we are fruit and vegetable eaters. Am I shutting everything out? Am I just because after that I want to ask you about some of the lining of the stomach that he spoke about as well. But he said that yes, we are by nature fruit and vegetable eaters. Can I get a hot meal out of fruit and vegetables?
You said a hot meal? Yeah, well, I actually just finished having a conversation with somebody earlier today who is trying to follow How to Eat to Live, and she was talking about some of the difficulty factors she was having, and that was the actual conversation. I said the only thing that we should eat raw is fruit, and all vegetables, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, have to have some heat added to them. So I pray that's what you were asking about, the hot part of the meal, because we should not be eating vegetables raw, and so
Right.
A lot of people that are out here following some of this information that's out in the social media world, doing raw beets, juicing raw beets to get your iron, and juicing other green vegetables for these green drinks. Those are against what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is saying, and the science behind it is that there's so many anti-nutrients. So an anti-nutrient is really just a binding substance that is connected to a nutrient. And the purpose of that is to protect these fruits, protect these vegetables in nature from bugs, from other animals, whatever the case may be. And so when we actually take that food from the plant, we have to add heat to it in order to break that bond so that the nutrient that you were getting the food for can be absorbed by the body. If you are not adding heat to it, if you're drinking raw beet juice and eating other vegetables raw, this is the way the nutrients going in your body, and you will not be able to absorb it. Or if you absorb it, it will be still tied to the anti-nutrient, and you won't be able to get the nutrient into your body like you think you are. And so that's the foundation of those statements that he makes in the book from a scientific perspective. And then the other thing would be that I am not trying to act as if I know everything that Honorable Elijah Muhammad says, because the book is tremendously filled with a lot of information that I continue to learn. But I will say this: in my 28 years of practicing medicine, I am absolutely 1000% convinced of the statement that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that we are made to be vegetarians, which, well, like you said, we're naturally made to eat fruits and vegetables, because I've never seen gallstones in a vegetarian. I've never seen kidney stones in a vegetarian. I don't typically see a lot of arthritis in vegetarians. And so those are things that bears witness to the brilliance and the profound information that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has given to us close to 90 years ago, that when you eat as we are made to eat, your body is at peace. Your body gets to practice Islam, right? So practicing Islam in the human body just means that your body is at peace and there's no disease processes in it. And so when we go into the book and he says, if you eat one meal a day, and you fast 2 or 3 days every month, there won't be enough germ in your body to cause any disease for 1 hour. That's pretty peaceful. And most of us don't know anybody that's living that way. But he didn't stop there. He says, if you eat one meal every 2 days, you won't be sick,
Yes.
but every 3 or 4 years. What would people that are sick every day think if they didn't have any problems every 3 or 4 years? That would be like heaven. That would be peace. That would be Islam for the body, right? Because people that I have worked with over the years, they feel horrible when they take their medicine, and they feel horrible if they don't take their medicine. That's a purgatory. That's hell. And so we, I believe, as members of the Nation of Islam, have a responsibility to show other people how great this like this, and continuing to express my grow in that manner, so that people will see the evidence just by looking at members of the Nation of Islam that everything he said is actual facts.
Yes, sir.
I mean, when you said not to eat raw vegetables, that kind of killed the salad craving. I mean, most people like go get the salads, the spinach, the romaine lettuce, throw the carrots, and you basically, saying that, okay, they're trying, or they're feeling as if they're eating properly, but really they are not. If you're saying that right there, can you expound on that just a little more?
Yes, sir. Well, what you're saying, what you just finished saying, that most people are doing is against how to eat to live. He said, do not make meals out of salads. I see plenty of people coming out of a place called Salata or whatever it's called with a big old salad, and that's your meal. I know people, regularly, that come to me and say things like that. Well, three times a week, in order to keep my weight down and to feel good and get all of my nutrition, I'll eat nothing but a salad. That's not how to eat to live. You can't claim how to eat to live and then practice things that are against the book. It's because you haven't read the book. You haven't gone into the book and spent some time in it like you should with making those type of statements, right? I hear people say, I'm a vegan, but I follow how to eat to live. That's impossible. You can't be a vegan and follow how to eat to live when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad says that milk is one of the best foods, that you can eat eggs, and you should do butter. So automatically taking you out of a vegan lifestyle. So that's why I always talk about how to eat to live, because there's so many of us, and I mean registered members of the Nation of Islam, that obviously aren't reading the book enough, or they just don't have confidence, or they haven't grown in the confidence of knowing that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is a superior doctor than anybody you know, anybody you studied, any degree you have. I don't give a damn what your education is. You cannot outsmart that man.
Right.
You can't take what he says and twist it up in your own damn words.
Right,
you are causing problems with his teaching. And so that's what I try to stand on, my brothers. I'm not perfect. I don't practice how to eat to live perfectly. I'm striving to. But I try to be careful what I say when I come into the public, because I have some actions. My wife was getting on me just yesterday morning. She was talking to me about salads. And I was saying, I have been saying since I've known her that I don't eat salads from a perspective of lettuce, because my research shows me that a salad that is bell peppers and avocado and onions and garlic, and I may put an egg in it sometimes, may put some sunflower seeds in it. That's a salad for me. I don't eat lettuce. It's not that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said don't eat lettuce, but he did say don't eat a lot of green leafy foods. That's in book number 2. I'll find the page in just a second. But if you want to read it for yourself, look at what he says about green leafy foods.
He froze?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And so again, we're talking about, all you have to do is just need to live the book. Then we have to either correct them or just be a good example. And so my statement was, since I've been knowing her, is I don't eat a lot of lettuce. If I eat a salad, it's going to have all those things I just mentioned, because the green leafy foods just don't have the same quality nutrition as some of the other foods that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad lists in the book. So even though there's a whole industry out there and a bunch of people that so-called are health gurus that talk about how good salads are, our man talks against it. I'm riding with him 100%.
Brings me to a lot. Now, I want to be honest with you. I just want to update you now. When you went into talking about that salad, the green leafy food, why we shouldn't eat it, you froze. So we didn't get none of that part. But you froze. But we got that last part. We got the last part. But just hint on that, why we shouldn't eat the green leafy part of the green leafy parts. Just real quick. Yes, sir.
Well, do me a favor and come on and ask me the next question while I look on the page, because I'm gonna read what he says to you.
All right. I have a brother that asks about medical apartheid.
What's that?
What is medical apartheid? And another brother asks about.
He froze again. He freezing, man. He freezing.
Another brother asks about medical apartheid, and another brother asks about bioengineered foods. Medical apartheid.
What do I think about medical apartheid? Is that the question?
Right. Another brother asked that in our chat.
Can you all hear me?
You in and out.
Yeah, we'd have to get a little more clarity on that. What about?
Can you hear me?
Sir?
Can I hear you now? Yes, sir.
Right. We'd have to get a little more clarity on that. What about bioengineered foods?
Okay, so he's freezing a lot. He's freezing a lot.
Yeah, brother, we can't hear you. You're freezing up.
Yeah, he's freezing up.
Well, I know one thing I did want to add to his comment was something that most honorable Elijah Muhammad said. He said we should eat a lot of spinach. And
can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
You can hear me now?
Now we can. Yes, sir. Did you find what you was looking for?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking
Okay, yeah. Okay. We're gonna have to. Wow. Man.
So
Man.
we was coming to our closing remarks anyways.
Right.
8:15.
If we can get back on, we'll let him get that closing remark. We just got to bring him back on for part 2.
That's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, we got to bring him back.
But Brother Kawi, you could please start with your closing remarks.
Yes, sir. So, assalamu alaikum, family. Thank you for tuning into the Jar Brothers once again. This show, every time we bring Dr. Achille on, it's just, to me, it's just motivating, inspiring. I think he's a fantastic teacher of the teaching of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in terms of how to eat to live. I think, if I could bring him on once a month, I would. And of course, Dr. Parks, to be able to break down the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad from, I guess, biochemist perspective is wonderful. It was fascinating hearing what insulin actually does, what it's actually doing within your blood. And so it just strengthens you, I guess. You get more in-depth information like that, and just strengthen you in how you move, how you make decisions about what you put in your mouth. So I think the show was fantastic. I would love to have either one of them back on the show in the near future. I pray that the viewing audience got something from it, and they make wiser decisions in terms of how they address their dietary issues. So that's what I have to say. Yeah, thank you for this show, Og, man. It was a good decision to have this show right here.
Well, I just wanted to say for everyone, our listening audience, How to Eat to Live is a book that should be one of the books that should be on your shelf. You should have this book on your shelf for your future generation, your family. It's a book that you can all purchase if you go to NOI.org or your local mosque. You should be able to find this book, NOI.org. You should be able to purchase this book from the website. You should be able to go to your local mosque. You can just Google in mosque and the number, or what mosque, Muhammad Mosque in your area. You should be able to buy this book. You should all have it on your shelf, just not only for you, but your children, your family, your parents. Everyone can live, and without medication, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, with the knowledge from Allah, God himself, is giving us wisdom on how to cure ourselves through eating. And he's letting you also know how you can kill yourself with eating. So it's a very, very important book to have. Very important book to have. NOI.org, How to Eat to Live. Okay. So I'd like to thank you all for joining on our show tonight. Look forward to seeing you all next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m., Jock Brothers, same time, same channel. And we'll have another hot topic where we'll be discussing something that's going to prick the mind and help your mind, body healing and spirituality. Thank you all for joining on us tonight. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum.
If I can get that engineer.
That's on me, brother. Yes, so here you go, brother.